There are returns, and then there are moments that rewire how you think WWE even works. Last night on Raw, the latter happened when an ambulance rolled onto the stage with its light strobing against a sea of phones, and a hush fell over the building that wasn't fear so much as disbelief. Only days removed from Clash in Paris, days removed from a stretcher ride, days removed from Braun Breaker's blindside and Bronson Reed's pile-on, the doors swung open and Roman Reigns stepped out, taped ribs visible under an open jacket, hospital bands still around his wrist like a reminder of what everyone thought he couldn't do. He didn't pose, didn't bask, didn't gloat, he simply set his jaw, fixed on the ring, and walked with the steady, undeniable cadence of a man who had decided the conversation was over before it started. And the instant he cleared the ramp, the show you thought you were watching transformed into the chapter you'll be talking about for years. Choose your side, then buckle up. Before we break down every beat, do the thing that keeps you in the loop: subscribe, hit the bell, and pick your colors, whether you're riding with the head of the table in the OTC1 collection, pledging to the Bloodline's legacy, or pulling on Seth Rollins' visionary gear because you crave the chess player who thinks 3 moves ahead. This is the moment the fandom splits into camps and the debate fuels the next 6 months. What you saw wasn't a cameo, it was a line in the sand drawn with sirens and resolve. And if you've ever said, "Nothing surprises me anymore," Roman just sent a polite correction: "You've never seen this." Now strap in, because the rewind is even wilder than the live watch. From Paris to a plan, the Bloodline on the brink. Clash in Paris left images that linger. Reigns grounded in the aftermath of a post-match ambush, Jey Uso battered after trying to stem the tide, Breaker and Reed swaggering under a cloud of shock, and Seth Rollins standing far enough away to deny fingerprints while close enough to enjoy the smoke. The Bloodline felt suddenly human, the kind of vulnerable that makes rivals greedy and fans anxious. Social feeds filled with, "Is this the end?" threads, "Where's Solo Sikoa?" questions, and a steady hum about Paul Heyman, that master of positioning, who seemed to read every room while keeping his motives famously unreadable. Yet somewhere between the airport and the MRI, Roman traded the scramble for a script. If they expected absence, he chose presence. If they expected a statement later, he made the moment now. The point wasn't to prove he was pain-free, it was to prove he was powerful. When the doors opened, an entrance for the ages. The ambulance didn't feel like a prop so much as punctuation. An answer to Paris crafted in the same language as the injury itself. The doors swung wide, and the camera framed Roman the way it frames inevitable things: centered, grounded, moving, no smoke machines, no pyro. Just the sound of the crowd rising from curiosity to recognition to a roar that carried equal parts relief and adrenaline. He hopped down, glanced once over each shoulder like a commander assessing lanes, and then pointed down the aisle as if reminding the arena that the path is still his to walk. Even the commentary desk fell into respectful silence, letting the audience narrate with noise until the microphones could catch up to the magnitude of the visual. If entrances are essays, this one said in a single sentence, "I'm not cleared to retreat." Walking wounded, leading unbroken. Reigns slid between the ropes with tape peeking from under his gear and a gait that was more deliberate than labored. You could see the breaths were measured, you could see the rib protection mattered, but the presence was undiminished. The best leaders don't pretend they feel nothing, they show you that feeling something doesn't change the outcome. Roman set his feet, scanned the ring for threats, and made the smartest choice any returning alpha can make: control the perimeter first, the speech later. He didn't need an opening monologue to reclaim space, he needed a stare, a step, and the shortest distance between intention and impact. That's exactly what happened, and the building matched his tempo, moving from, "Is he okay?" to, "He's here to take back what's his," in one heartbeat. Shock and awe without crossing the line. What followed was decisive, not gratuitous. Reigns moved through Rollins' orbit like a storm that knew its route, shouldering past bodies with firm shoves, landing short, sharp shots that read on camera without tipping into chaos, and creating clean lanes to the people who'd done the recent damage. Bronson Reed ate the first statement, his bulk redirected over the announce table after a burst that drew as many gasps for the physics as for the ferocity. Braun Breaker tried to meet force with force and got intercept speed for his trouble, a Superman punch that sent him skidding into the timekeeper's area to recalibrate. Security stepped in, officials flowed, and the whole scene stayed on the right side of believable, intense enough to satisfy the felt need for accountability, controlled enough to protect the broadcast and the bodies. It was the art of making a point without making a mess. Face to face, this is my kingdom. Then it was just two men and a decade of history humming between them, Reigns and Rollins in the center, the noise of the arena bending inward until the ring felt like the only lit place on earth. Seth wore that practiced composure that says nothing touches him, but the eyes told a different story. Calculation with a flicker of, he shouldn't be here yet. Roman didn't sprint, didn't swing wild, he stepped into range. Let the silence work for him, and then cut it with a line that will live in. Highlights. You thought I was finished. You thought you could take everything I built. This is my kingdom, and I'm back to claim it. There are times you speak to your rival, and times you speak through him to everyone else. This was the latter, a broadcast to the roster, the office, and the world. The tribal chief is upright, untaken, and unwilling to accept any narrative he didn't author. The message beneath the mayhem. Strip away the spectacle and the ambulance entrance becomes a thesis about leadership. Roman didn't return at 100%, he returned at necessary, and that's a different standard. The point wasn't to deadlift two monsters or win a marathon brawl. The point was to reset the room, restore an axis, and remind every opportunist that the window just slammed. Arriving in the same vehicle that symbolized his vulnerability was a masterstroke. You thought this was the end of my story? It's the vehicle for my next chapter. That's why the camera kept catching the wristband and the tape, signals that he's human, yes, but also signals that he's still here, and presence is power. In an era of vacated titles and, out indefinitely, graphics, Reigns chose the harder, rarer optic. Show up, even if it hurts, because the sightline of a leader often matters more than the stat line. Seth Rollins' dilemma, staring back at him. For Rollins, the calculus shifted instantly. His faction's strength the past week hasn't been pure muscle, it's been momentum. You can plan around a timetable and feast on space when your rival is absent. What do you do when the absence evaporates in sirens? Seth's smartest play now is to change the frame, mock the drama, aim at the ribs, try to lure Roman into a stipulation that favors time and numbers. His riskiest play is to pretend nothing changed, because everything did, the presence of. Reigns forces the visionary to be what he claims, a strategist, not a spectator. He must pick a target, Jay's status, Solo's silence, Heyman's shadow, and exploit it immediately or risk being pushed from narrator to reactor. And if you know Seth, you know he hates reacting. The Braun-Bronson equation just flipped. Breakker and Reed have been wrecking balls, direct, confident, and loud. Last night they learned the difference between beating a man and unseating a monarch. Roman didn't win a fight, he took their oxygen. Every glance at the stage will now carry a new kind of tension, every backstage interview a second set of eyes tracking doors. That's how power reasserts itself, not by erasing opponents but by installing doubt. Expect Bronson to lean into his mass and menace to reclaim aura, expect Braun to lean into speed and explosive entries, and expect both to test the ribs early and often. They'll have their moments, because they're that good, but the easy path they enjoyed for a week is gone, and you could feel it in the way the crowd shifted from booing their dominance to buzzing for Roman's footfall. Heyman in the shadows, as ever. Paul Heyman's gift is presence without motion. He can stand ringside and tell a chapter with a single eyebrow, and lately those brows have been a riddle. Is he hedging, angling, advising, or all three? Last night didn't answer the question so much as sharpen it. Roman's choice to act without an obvious wiseman whispering in his ear suggests a tribal chief relying on instinct over counsel, a story beat that gives Heyman two delicious lanes. Rally visibly behind Roman and re-earn the spot beside the throne, or stay just far enough away to preserve leverage if Rollins' vision catches fire. Whichever he picks, his fingerprints will be there. Watch for who he's near when cameras aren't on him, because proximity is Paul's first language. The Moxley variable, bonds that outlive brands. Even without a cameo or a quote, the specter of Jon Moxley hovers over this war. Recent weeks have reminded fans that some lines in wrestling are dotted, not solid. The kind you can acknowledge without crossing, Roman hinting at bonds that answer when called, Seth bristling at ghosts he thought he exorcised, and a fanbase that knows the Shield isn't a reunion so much as a reckoning whenever two of them collide and the third breathes the same air. does Moxley have to appear to matter? Not at all. A line, a voice, a glare from another arena can rattle cages just fine. The point is the pressure, not the paperwork. History is a character now, and it's on. Roman sighed as long as he keeps invoking brotherhood as a principle rather than a stunt. Titles, timelines, and the collision course ahead. Belts complicate everything and make everything better. If Roman's target is Seth, then the road runs through challengers and schedules that were made without a siren entrance in mind. Does management slot a tag reckoning first to distribute the load, or go straight to the centerpiece clash and dare both men to race recovery against ambition? Do Breakker and Reed demand their dues, forcing a gauntlet that tests Roman's tape before he can touch Rollins? The only certainty is that the board just got shuffled. Crown-level events look different when the head of the table moves a piece early, and every poster mock-up across the internet now has a version with an ambulance light glow in the corner, because that image changed the math. Why the ambulance matters, symbolically and practically. We keep coming back to the vehicle because it's the rare prop that works on two levels. Symbolically, it flips vulnerability into victory. The thing that took him out of Paris brought him back to Raw. Practically, it sends the clearest message to the locker room and the audience alike. Roman doesn't need smoke to be smoke. He can walk out of a boxy white truck with medical decals and draw a louder reaction than a fireworks budget. It's a reminder that the character is bigger than the trappings, and that when the performance is rooted in conviction. The smallest choices carry the biggest echoes. Last night, the siren was a bell. Matches were being made before anyone rang it. How WWE keeps this credible and hot. The key from here is restraint with rhythm. Let Roman appear when it counts, not everywhere. Keep the physicality crisp and safe, not prolonged and reckless. Make Rollins talk too much because it's who he is, and make Roman say only what's necessary because it's who he's become. Weave JUSO's recovery into a heartbeat for the story so the family theme remains human, not just heraldic. Give Breakker and Reed big, clean wins on other nights so they don't fade into hit-and-run guys. Then let Roman pick his spots to sting them, and if Heyman's going to choose, let the camera discover it rather than announce it. Audiences love putting clues together, and nothing fuels a long angle like fans feeling smart. Your turn in the war room. So where do you plant your flag? Are you riding with Roman's ambulance declaration? The leader who shows up taped, takes back airspace, and refuses to wait for permission. Are you betting on Seth's playbook, a strategist who can make any storm look like weather he invited? Or are you here for the chaos, hoping for nights where Breakker explodes from nowhere and Reed bends railings to remind everyone that physics is a storyline too? Drop your booking in the comments. First confrontation you want. First stipulation that fits. First person who should take a microphone and tell us how they really feel. The fun of a war this loud is that every voice counts, and yes, your fantasy card might be the one the timeline rallies behind. Final bell, a return that rewrites the rules. Roman Reigns didn't just return, he reframed what a return can do. In one entrance, he turned a stretcher into a statement, a setback into a siren, and an injury into an instrument of myth. He didn't erase Seth Rollins' momentum, he made it answer the door. He didn't bury Breakker and Reed. He made them look over their shoulders. He didn't need a throne to be the head of the table, he needed a lane, a line, and a look. If you left Paris thinking the empire was wobbling, last night told you something truer. Empires aren't the walls, they're the will. The tribal chiefs is intact, and the next time you hear a siren during his entrance, it won't be a warning, it'll be a promise that the game didn't just resume, it escalated.